So congratulations to them. One of them might be a Grand Prix champion here in just a moment. Going to find out who's going to go to the finals. It's a Cavern of Souls to start. That's a Llanowar Elf. That's no Elvish Mystic. That's a Llanowar Elves. I haven't seen that one for a little while. Elderfield with a Gemstone Mine to start things off. We'll see what the follow-up is going to be for him. It'll be a copy of Sleight of Hand. The underplayed cantrip in Modern.
I think this card is pretty good. It does not interact favorably with Delver of Secrets, which makes it awkward for some of the blue decks. But for the combo decks of the format, totally reasonable to be playing this alongside Serum Visions.
A Lotus Bloom. That's on suspend too. Here's a copy of Nick, though. Shrine of Nyx.
He's heating up.
I'm trying to. Elvish Archdruid.
We're talking about a lot of mana next turn.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Lotus Bloom down to 2 counters. Pact Negation the draw here for Elderfield. It's a Temple of Deceit, which means that Elderfield gets to scry. As you mentioned, this really is just kind of 2 ships passing in the night.
Yep. Being on the play here is a huge deal for Michael in this matchup. Because can he kill on turn 3? That's asking a lot, although it's definitely possible. Can he kill on the 4th turn, assuming Darian needs this Lotus Bloom to come off suspend to be able to generate a kill of his own? That's very realistic, especially with Nykthos and Elvish Archdruid.
Gemstone going to tick down. There's a copy of Serum Visions. Take a draw. What's interesting, however, is that Darian, he can find ways to buy time not to die like a card like Angel's Grace.
Yeah, Angel's Grace and the Darkness in the sideboard.
Yep.
They're pretty awesome here. Normally you're only using them on the turn you're comboing out with ad nauseum, but in a deck that's just trying to kill you via attack damage, they can buy a turn. And because Michael has no recourse against Darian executing his combo, sometimes an extra turn is all he needs to be able to flip it around and win.
Razorverge Thicket is land number 3. How much mana can you make? Nettle Sentinel times 2. Let's see what's next here. Court of Calling in hand. Elvish Archdruid currently going to tap for 4 mana. That doesn't even work in Nykthos into the equation. You see Malone's actually doing math to see how much green mana he can make.
Beatdowns.
Just an attack for 2.
But if he can court for Azura here, he's untapping and killing.
Yes. Lotus Bloom ticks down to 1. A Plains is the draw. That'll enter the battlefield. There goes Gemstone Mine. Let's see what's next here. Phyrexian Unlife. We're going to take a look at the Unlife. We don't see this one a ton.
And this may be the extra turn, essentially, that Darian needs, just like Angel's Grace.
So there's this weird interaction where damage is dealt to you in the form of poison counters. So we're going to have a Court of Calling here in just a moment. And now I think we're going to have, well, maybe we have an Azuri, maybe not. Elderfield's going to stop him here to cast Pact Negation, which means he's got to cash in his Lotus Bloom to be able to pay for the Pact next turn.
Well, or the other route here is in the upkeep, the Lotus Bloom comes off, and with the trigger on the stack, you can win the game.
Grace.
Remember, Darian's deck is capable of killing at instant speed.
Yeah. I suppose I did forget about that route.
Assuming Michael can't break up this board, he can trigger the Pact, have the Lotus Bloom come off, cast out an Nauseam, and he's got it.
Interesting. Wow. Here comes more mana. What's this bring with it? There's another Elvish Archdruid.
One spot left in the last standard on-demand constructed event of the night. So if you'd like to fill this event,
I think what Elderfield is doing right now is seeing how much damage they're going to take. What's the worst that you can do?
we have one spot left.
Because at this point, it's free for him to Pact again. Because I believe his plan is just stab the triggers, have Lotus Bloom come off, and cast ad nauseam. And you can see he has another Pact Negation in his hand. So he has one more free counterspell rolled in all of this.
I suppose the question right now is, does he have ad nauseam in his hand? There's a lightning storm over there. It looks like there's an angel's grace too. I think the only thing that's unclear is if he actually has the black card in his hand. Well, there's another pack negation, so he's countering that too. And remember, he can work his way through this by just saying, okay, upkeep with the triggers in the stack, play Angel's Grace because I can't lose the game. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Reclamation Sage was the last card. Here's a pretty healthy attack.
But now he's got to win the game with 2 pack triggers here.
You're going to get some triggers. And here's Angel's Grace again,
Okay.
split second. So he's fine because he can't lose the game. Lotus Bloom's going to come in. The draw's a copy of Serum Visions, but I'm not sure how much that's going to help because the other cards in hand are Pentad Prism and Lightning Storm. None of those cards are ad nauseum, and there's not even the mana to cast ad nauseum right now. So Elderfield is in some real trouble.
And this is what we talked about before. There's just a higher fail rate on Darian's deck than there is on Elves. Elves may not always have the most explosive kill, but it's going to be pretty consistent that he's got the beatdowns ready to go by the 4th turn.
Yeah. A little scry action here for Elderfield, but I'm not entirely sure he has a way out of this. He's going to put both cards to the bottom. Serum Visions is done resolving. Pass that turn back. Now, right now, those Nettle Sentinels aren't untapping, so, and they appear to still not be untapping. So, if we're looking for positives, we've found some.
Well, if they untap, Darian's dead this turn.
Yeah, he has no green creature to play pre-combat, so they're not untapping. So, it looks like it's going to attack here for 7. Quick update for you guys. Wesley C. We told you they're not messing around.
Yeah.
He won game number 1 over Andrew Wagner. Twin up a game over Affinity. See that draw step. It's
Ooh.
a copy of ad nauseum, but there's no Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife to go along with it, and that's the problem. And there's nothing he can do. Elderfield's going to have to concede the game, so Michael Malone is going to win game number 1 here over Darien Elderfield. Elves up a game over ad nauseum. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. And Elderfield sideboard, it's a little all over the place with a lot of unorthodox cards. 3 Darkness being the strangest of the bunch. 4 Leyline Sanctity, a Laboratory Maniac, a Slaughter Pact, 2 Esper Charm, a Giga Drouse, a Pact Negation, a Patrician Scorn, and a Repeal.
So a lot of the removal here seems like it would be fine because Michael, of course, is bringing a lot of creatures to the table. But I think that cards like Repeal and Slaughter Pact are for specific hate cards that he can't really play the game through. A card, you know, for example, like Dahlia or Aethersworn Candace, more for that. Probably not so much for this matchup. I do very much like the 3 copies of Darkness, however, since even though Michael is a combo deck, he's really only winning through combat, and Darkness represents a full turn.
The other side of things, I got a Spell Sky to Burn from Forge Tender, a Hushwing Griff, 3 Kitchen Finks, a Reclamation Sage, 3 Beasts Within, 2 Dismember, 2 Fracturing Gust, and a Bow of Nylea.
Already talked about this a little bit. Really like the 1 Reclamation Sage and the 3 copies of Beasts Within. Darien needs to put a lot of permanents on the table to be able to combo off their enchantments and artifacts, and Reclamation Sage and Beasts Within represent really good disruption.
Well, well, well. Interesting matchup here.
I didn't know really what to make of this. I mean, you and I kind of had the same instinct that Darien had the better end of this, but the Reclamation Sage that Michael had there was huge.
Just unbelievable.
And this ad nauseam deck is vulnerable to disenchants. You know, you have to put your Pentaplasms into play. You know, Lotus Bloom is part of your combo. Phyrexian Unlife. Usually they represent a full turn, and you need them to eventually go ahead and do your thing. And ad nauseam has a little bit of fragileness against enchantment and artifact destruction, and we saw that there in game 1.
It's fun taking a look at Twitter and people using the GP Charlotte hashtag. You can really see some lines are divided. Some people a big fan of ad nauseum, some people a big fan of this Collector Company Elves deck, some people rooting on Twin, but not a ton. I think everyone's a little tired of Twin and its dominance, and then some Affinity fans out there too. I know this is a match that people want to see. A lot of fans of ad nauseum, a lot of fans of Elves. I'm even surprised to see Elves in the top 8. But this deck is good.
Yeah, this is definitely a big surprise. And I mean, both of these decks, big surprise. The other side of the bracket, Affinity versus Twin. Twin, definitely not a surprise. Affinity, you tell me what 1 copy's in the top 8, I'll buy it for sure.
Never surprised by that. It just, you know, you bring more hate cards, you bring a card like Kolaghan's Command, Affinity can still make it through. It's crazy to think that that's the case, but it's just the truth. You can have as many Shatterstorms, Nation Grudges, and everything else. Affinity always finds a way.
And honestly, there weren't that many of those kind of cards throughout the tournament. You know, we saw like 1 Grudge and 1 Shatterstorm floating around the sideboard of some of the Jund decks, but very few copies of Kataki.
I mean, what we found this weekend is that there were a lot of copies of Ghost Quarter and Blood Moon and Fulminator Mage because you wanted to beat the big mana strategies, but not a lot of people gunning for Affinity this weekend.
I think a lot of people just assuming that Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster Mage, Kolaghan's Command, the Grixis shell of removal, Tarbonate, will give you enough game there, and that's not the case.
No, you got to bring it for Affinity.
Yeah.
It's just too explosive of a deck.
I mean, we saw very early on in the tournament, Osa Levodovich beat Grixis Twin with the Grixis Twin player dying with Kolaghan's Command in hand because there was just a large creature that couldn't be touched.
We'll see how these
And
players
Edge
are going
Champion and a couple artifact lands.
Edge Champion is.
That was good enough.
Edge Champion in certain matchups is completely insane. Talking to Todd Anderson, his loss on day 1, he's like, yeah, just played Edge Champion. I can't ever win. That's literally all he said. He's like, I can't do anything about that card. I can't kill it. It's actually impossible for me to kill. And my opponent just beat me down with it with the cranial plating.
Play a lot of burn strategies over the years. You know, cranial plating is usually not very good against you. You have a lot of removal spells and so forth. But now if it's on Edge Champion, that's good to go.
What's a little interesting here is that a lot of the players on the draw during the quarterfinals won. Elderfield's the 8th seed. Wesley C. was the 6th seed. And then Andrew Wagner was the 7th seed. Only player who got the job done as the higher seed, Michael Malone. And I feel like he's in some pretty prime position right now to get the job done here. We'll see as both players take a look at their opening hand. Elderfield will be on the play. Slowly peeling his 7 cards. He will keep to Seachrome Coast to get things started here in game number 2. Razor Verge Thicket into a Heritage Druid for Malone. Looks like a copy of Dreadshot Brief in Elderfield's hand. There's a Gemstone Mine. Down to 2 counters already for a copy of Pentad Prism, which also has 2 counters.
And this opens up into a potential turn 3 kill here for Darian. You have a land, a Simian Spirit Guide, that's enough mana for Angel's Grace and Ad Nauseam all in the same turn.
Yeah. And that is the proverbial nut draw.
Right, there it is.
Heritage Druid is feeling it. Into the red zone it goes. There's another Heritage Druid. And a copy of Burrington Forge Tender and a passing of the turn. Forge Tender's pretty neat.
Sure.
Stop a lightning storm.
Yep.
You got to kill this before you go off. Now, when you have your whole deck in hand, I imagine that you can.
Especially if he's brought in the 1 Pact of Negation. The Slaughter Pact, rather,
Yes.
anticipating this.
Here's Phyrexian Unlife. I believe Elderfield hoping this does not get killed again. As it appears he may have Ad Nauseam in hand. We'll see.
Beast Within and Reclamation Sages available for Michael here post-board.
That also means Court of Calling can get the job done too. Elvish Visionary. Trigger. Draw a card. 3 elves on the battlefield. So now it's time for 3 green. Reclamation Sage yet again. Though choosing targets here is a touch interesting. I think you're supposed to kill Phyrexian Unlife.
Yeah, that to me that's the card you got to take here because it's unlikely that mana is the bottleneck, but Darian only has so many of these effects, and he needs them to Ad Nauseam.
What's kind of interesting about this is if you kill the Pentad Prism, and then you leave him with the Gemstone Mine, he gets 1 shot at it, and he is actually going to go with the Pentad Prism. Well, we're going to find out real soon if this backfires or not. Take a draw. Picked up a copy of Darkslick Shores.
Now, if Michael has another way to remove an enchantment off the table, I like getting rid of the Pentap Prism first.
Sure.
If this is his only way to do it, I would prefer to get the Phyrexian Unlife off the table.
Temple of Deceit, top card's going to go to the bottom. Elderfield will just pass the turn back. Malone will untap. Take a draw here. Picked up a copy of Beast Within as the draw step.
These sideboard cards that Michael has is excellent.
They're really good.
Darian's really floundering here, facing against a deck that's capable of killing about as fast as he can, while getting his permanents tagged along the way.
This is your friendly reminder not to attempt to bribe your opponent or roll dice. To determine a winner, your next reminder will not be friendly.
This is going to come as a big surprise to you as we watch Malone's turn, but Julian Nab has...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's chimed in on Twitter, of course.
Some sort of Elves bat signal for some of these dudes.
The European player who loves Elves in Legacy and has won the Bazaar of Moxit as well with Elves. He says, never underestimate Elves, no matter which format. There's Elvish Archdruid. That's going to resolve, so it looks like some beatdowns will occur. Even the Forge Tender, you can get in there too. Pass the turn back. Next turn's the big turn.
Yep.
For Michael, he can deal so much damage. Retro Reef is going to have a counter placed onto it. Elderfield will draw a card. It's a copy of Serum Visions. Decisions for the ad nauseum player.
But if I'm Darian, I'm playing assuming that I'm not getting another turn here.
I would feel the same way. It just seems too unlikely.
Well, you're looking at lethal, and all Michael needs to do is be able to get the Phyrexian Unlife off the table, and he's got several Chords of Calling to that end, and he's got his Beast Withins as well.
Here's Serum Visions. Brian Kibler chiming in on Twitter. He's watching right now. He said, I guess of all the miserable literal combo decks in the top 8, Elves is the most honest, so he's rooting for Michael Malone.
Yeah. I mean, Lightning Bolt is appreciable disruption against this deck.
Yep. Of course Kibler's rooting for the green deck. Who are we kidding?
I mean, it's no Wiltleaf Liege, but pretty honest stuff going on here on the balance.
There's Darkslick Shores, past that turn back. A lot of mana available here for Michael Malone. Let's see what he can do with it. Nettle Sentinel, Azuri in hand. Our backup match going to game number 3. Andrew Wagner was able to tie things up against Wesley C. Twin and Affinity getting ready for a third one. We might be jumping that way in just a minute.
Welcome to round 8. You may begin.
Archdruid's going to add a whole bunch of mana here. Looks like 6 of it. Perhaps it's Court of Calling time. It appears that it is.
Darian has brought in the repeal, it appears.
Yep. A green mana floating.
So yeah, looks like we're announcing a chord for 3 with a man in the pool.
time for Elderfield to do some math because this feels like a Reclamation Sage.
Yep.
That'll resolve. That's exactly what it's going to be. That's going to take care of the Phyrexian Unlife. Elderfield trying to figure out if there's a way that he can stay alive here. There's a lot of damage coming his way.
Yeah, with the Archdruid pumps, this is a sizable attack.
Now, one card that does not work its way into the equation actually is Pendelhaven because there are no 1/1s on the battlefield.
Yep.
So that's a small positive if you're rooting for Elderfield. But with Darian at 12, it looks like he does get to make it through this turn alive.
But his hand right now appears to be a dead end.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to repeal Simian Spirit Guide, and I guess he's looking at repealing his own Phyrexian Unlife here and going at it again.
That appears to be the plan. It's just unclear if this leads to a win. He's going to have to lose his Gemstone Mine. Here's Beast within now. That'll give away a Beast token.
I mean, that was kind of a desperate last stab there from Darian, and now that has not worked. He's down his Gemstone Mine. I think that he's just going to lose the beatdowns over the next 2 turns.
I think so too. I think a potential line of play, and it depends how he's sideboarded here, is just repeal one of these 1-mana elves. You lose your Phyrexian Unlife, but you don't die, and you can maybe run a runner into a copy of Angel's Grace and Ad Nauseam.
Yeah.
I think that may have gave him the best shot to win. Because he only gets to draw 1 card next turn. He doesn't have either piece. At least it appears that way in his hand. I believe his hand right now is Simian Spirit Guide and a land.
Well, I think that Darian might have, if everything worked out, he might have given himself 2 turns because he wouldn't have died this turn or the next turn. It's only the turn after.
Okay.
And if he's thinking to himself, well, I can't really be Beast Within from this spot regardless, then maybe this is the better line. It definitely has higher upside. But the sideboard cards that Michael has been cranking out here have been really disruptive.
Yeah, he's drawn quite a few of them too.
Yeah.
We're going Elderfield's way. He's taking a draw. Lightning Storm. He does have a Gemstone Mine in hand, but he is at 4. This is a Spoils of the Vault.
Please name Darkness. Darkness. We only got this once. Come on.
We are very desperate. 1, 2 is Angel's Grace. He named Phyrexian Unlife. 3. It's got to be this one.
No.
That's not it. That's going to do it. Michael Malone is going to win this match here over Darien Elderfield. 2-0. Elves takes care of Ad Nauseam, and Michael Malone is on to the finals.
Very impressive display there. We didn't have a very good sense of how that match was going to play out. We both thought that it was going to be good on the Ad Nauseam side, but I think we might have both underestimated how much Reclamation Sage and Beast Within were going to do. And